I want you to succeed at things that you never thought were possible, and I want you to fail at things that you never thought were possible. But I just want you to take that failure and move forward. Good evening. Welcome to the Imperfect podcast. I am El Rey, your host. We had a very good episode last week just talking about education. I wanted to continue it today. I was going to bring on two teachers, two educators, and the first one just basically ran into some life issues because, shit's crazy teaching coronavirus and all that. So we saved her for a later date, and we are still going to move forward. Most of you guys don't know that I started an event, a nonprofit event in Costa Rica about 10 years ago called Tropic Bowl. We help, we go there, we play football, we teach health and wellness to at-risk youth and kids. We have gotten to a point where I've been able to incorporate a lot of my friends in it as well. Motherfucker said Roberto Moreno Wi-Fi. And as we incorporated our friends, they've basically built their own programs as well. So everything we have that's helped out as we went along, whether it be Limitless Athletics that works with kids all year round, or Harold Roy and EpiCare who came, they teach first responders CPR. We brought them last year. They teach kids to, even this shirt I'm wearing, I'm tired. You like that? That's my man Tim Jones with One Vision Training. Go on Instagram, One Vision Training. And then there is a method behind all the madness. And my man that I look at like he is the wizard in the Wizard of Oz that's sitting behind the curtains creating all this mayhem. I'm gonna bring him in right now. It is my main man Alex Holder.
What's
How
going
you
on?
doing
What's
tonight,
going
sir?
on? I'm good, man. That's a
You like
beautiful
that?
intro, man. You putting a
Wizard.
lot on me, man. You putting a lot on me to live up to. Exactly, right?
um,
And then on
Go ahead.
top, I was gonna say, then on top of that, man, I got beef with you, man, because you bringing me on after your highest rated episode,
Listen,
Mr. Mims
I
coming
would say
through.
that is the most info-driven episode. It's not the highest as far as views. We got a lot of views on I think the first one that I did, the police one, because I had
Okay.
black people yelling at me. Speaking of that, this week and over the last 3 weeks, it started with black people yelling at me. Last week I got white people telling me I'm racist too. So I'm doing something right, right?
or you're super racist. You're just super
So just
racist.
everybody got to go.
Exactly.
Um,
Is there?
with that being said, tell me about what you do, man. Tell me about your organization, what you've been doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. It's an honor to be on this, man. I see what you're doing with this platform, and I love it, man. It's like I said, it's an honor to be here. Um, so I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a lot. Steam EDD is the primary vehicle, though, man. That's a nonprofit that I started with my business partner Lauren Murphy in 2018. Whenever I explain it to people, I try to kind of put our work in three different buckets. So we create our own programs, and we create STEM educational programs for underrepresented youth and under-resourced populations of youth, and then we also kind of serve as educational consultants working with other organizations to help them do the same, who have similar passions, similar missions. And we basically kind of work with them on their teams and serve as glue. So if they need help fundraising, help recruiting kids, help putting together programs, we're really jack of all trades from that standpoint, and we help get things done. And then the kind of third aspect of what we do really kind of falls under kind of resource collection and management. So we come across too many families that we can't serve, and even coming across families that may not be a great fit for our program. So we try to kind of stay abreast of what's going on and free resources and other kind of programs and other people doing great things out there. We try to make sure that we're pushing families and kids to stay active and promoting continuous learning.
Okay. All right. As far as going into now, do you feel like it's more challenging as far as getting everything together, putting programming in place with coronavirus, especially since there's no roles that have kind of been defined as to what people are supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it? Tell me a little bit how about if that is a challenge and how it's been a challenge.
It's crazy. It was crazy before coronavirus. It's crazy now. It's just a different kind of crazy, right? Um, Coronavirus is definitely so we. It's easier to kind of engage with kids. It's easier to kind of do this kind of programming when you're in person, when you're able to get kids in the classroom, when you're able to bring kids outside and shoot rockets in the air and kind of do all that kind of fun STEM stuff. But we're definitely kind of we're taking this on as a challenge to find different ways where we can kind of create, give that same educational experience, have that same impact, have that same engagement, but in these virtual environments. So it's tough, but you know, it's tough doing that other stuff too. So
What have they? I
the
mean, what
job's
have
not
they said
easy.
to you as far as like actual defined restrictions of what you can't do, what you can do, and has anybody kind of given you a date as to like, yeah, when we get to this date, you can shoot rockets in the air, but you can't shoot rockets in the air next to a class.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there's a lot of there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of kind of people kind of being very hopeful and being very optimistic setting dates. We made the decision early on where it's just like this coronavirus thing looks serious enough where we really can't trust the information out there. So let's kind of pick a path and just stay on it. And the most reasonable path that we saw was going virtual with our program. So we shook our whole roadmap up. We were planning on kind of doing in-person programming over the summer, really amping up our engagements with some of our partners, and then being in schools, doing programming, creating maker spaces, and really getting hands-on students for the rest of the year. And all that got thrown out the window, and it was just like, okay, like how can we still have that impact? But we got to come up with some new ideas on how we're going to do that. So literally, man, this is my office right here. This is like the nice part of it. If I turn the camera the other way, it's just papers and craziness and
Shit, that's my life. If
everywhere.
I
You know what
turn
I'm
the
saying?
camera the other way in my fucking life, then people realize, oh,
It's
he's not a millionaire. The motherfucker is broke as shit and his house is on fire. Put that out.
exactly like exactly. So like this is the illusion right here. Like there's a little bit of couch in this in the window behind me, but yeah, man, we just been here just planning, man. Just I got the whiteboards up everywhere and just trying to figure out kind of how we can really kind of be impactful in this virtual environment. And then on top of that, man, it's not just kind of like just sitting in a room in a bubble trying to figure that out. I'm constantly talking with parents like yourself. I'm talking with other educators. I'm talking with kids on all levels. And I'm really trying to figure out kind of what's working, what's not working, and just trying to calculate and trying to formulate a new plan. And then even as we're running stuff, our staff this summer is amazing. Everybody is like has the right energy, has the right spirit going into it, and I'm bringing a business aspect to it because that's my background, and especially like doing product development, doing kind of agile development, creating stuff, and we're looking at everything just from the standpoint of like, okay, we have an idea, let's vet it out, let's test it, let's see if it works, let's talk about it. Did it work? No. Why didn't it work? Okay, let's make some adjustments. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. It did work. Okay, why did it work? How can we amplify that? How can we kind of keep that going
Yeah,
and
I
keep
mean, as
spreading
you
that?
know, it's like we do that type of work all the time. And Ralph, let me know if this is louder because I did change something a little bit. So let me know if that volume upload kind of goes up a little bit. It's the same type of thing that we do where we kind of have to reassess what worked, what didn't work all the other time because everybody always looks at the finished product and doesn't ever factor in the fucking screaming nights for no apparent reason and the why
Yeah.
this isn't working and why is everybody trying to tear this shit down as we're trying to the day of and then like as far as planning the event in Costa Rica the last couple years you're talking about somebody dying the day before, and then the
Yeah.
next year you got basically what we're running into now, where I mean everybody likes it and enjoys the final product and enjoys the videos and loves to have fun, but doesn't understand how we are working all the fucking time, all year
Yeah.
to kind of give somebody a project that is working better for them. I guess moving forward is as far as like what you're discussing and the challenges that you're facing, and I talk to people kind of about this all the time. I'm a very, very big on artistic expression, and I feel like with everybody kind of freaking out about when we can go back to school, and actually, let me stop right there and say the poll that was supposed to be up there was when you think that anybody that's in there that's a parent, because we do have a lot of parents in there right now. You should return your
Mm.
kids to school. Is it tomorrow? Because I'm ready to go tomorrow. I mean, is it December? Is it 20 fucking 21? Is it 2022? What do y'all think? Y'all can just type it, let me know so I can see what that is and speak on that. But I feel the mental aspect is something that's just not being kind of looked at all. Even when people go to school, they speak with psychologists, they speak with, you know, social workers, and now it's just like, hey, I'm dropping your work off at your house. Do that shit.
Yeah.
It's not checking
Yeah.
your mental well-being. It's not checking your artisticness, because when you're by yourself or you're alone, you do have artistic people and you don't. But now you don't have a chance for those artistic people to influence those non-artistic people.
Yeah, man, that's such a great point, man. And to that like point, I've been trying to study this thing and just try to kind of like look at it from all those angles, and kind of looking at the population of students that we serve, like that middle school, that like late elementary, middle school age kind of group of students. We also serve high school students too, but like the at our core. That emotional kind of engagement with other students, just with other people, is it's lacking right now, and it's definitely kind of the detriments of that are definitely showing kind of with these kids, as like we're calling kind of Zoom fatigue, and we're calling kind of like just a restlessness with kids, and that's definitely building up, and that's when we went into building, when we said we were going to do a virtual program, we were looking at the problems and engagement, and definitely kind of having interaction amongst kind of like student populations was definitely kind of one of the things that we saw as a huge problem. We heard feedback that was a huge problem, and we tried to kind of put a bunch of different kind of ideas in place on how to solve that. From having kind of recess, like online virtual recess sessions, where basically like the kids are all in a Zoom, and they're leading it, and they're just kind of telling jokes to each other. They're showing videos to each other, and it's just a real open environment, just kind of giving them some interactions that you don't get from just sitting in front of a computer in class learning math or learning science or whatever the
I
case may
don't
be.
know if you like, in Brookline when we grew up, there was a guy. His name was Arthur Conquest. I don't know if he's still around. I was talking
Hmm.
to my friend Akil, and he said, "Yeah, actually, he is still around." And that he might have been the embodiment of the start of like STEM shit, because I can
Yeah.
remember when
Okay.
I was maybe 10, they were like, "Oh, you got to go to Mr. Conquest's class," and I was like, "What the fuck is Mr. Conquest's class?" And it was this black dude with the biggest fucking lips ever, and I think he actually had an allergic reaction because his shit was like in Nutty Professor when he had the lips. He was like, "My lip is
That's
swollen. I
racist,
need some
Ray.
better."
That's
And no, motherfucker had big lips. It's not racist. I've already been racist twice this week. I can't be racist 3 times. That's a rule. That's a white people rule. I can't be racist 3 times.
now one. It's three racism. Then you get an extra punch on your punch card. You get one free. You know.
So basically, when I went to his course, we made a robot. He had like a motherboard, and
Okay.
we were soldering. So at 10 years old, I'm sitting here with a fucking solder gun and an iron,
Yeah.
and that's the exact type of thing that you could do. Said you have the actual program structured to. So you ship the shit to the kids' houses. And then they
Yeah.
open the box, and then everybody's on a Zoom at the same time with an instructor in the center, and then you Zoom like that.
We are doing that. So this weekend, like my life, this weekend, I'm driving to families' houses, parents' houses, and delivering STEM kits so that we can do that very thing. We found a great partner. They actually found us, and then we kind of started talking, and then we built this relationship. It's a restaurant called Spice. It's the first robotic kitchen, I think, anywhere ever. It's in Cambridge. It's a bunch of MIT grads who started it. And if you go on YouTube and you look at it, it looks like some crazy shit. It's awesome. I can't wait till they open back up so we can kind of get in there. But we're partnering with them to build STEM kits, and kind of do some kind of STEM work and STEM prizes and stuff like that, and that tie into their business, so that the kids can have a real world application for some of the stuff that they're doing. And then we're going to have that Zoom session, like you said, kind of with the Spice team, to sit down and kind of talk about the inventions that the kids did and how they're actually practical and how they're being used. So it's about bringing those real world aspects to these STEM projects, and kind of and try to engage kids that way, not just saying just blanket, just BS kind of general kind of projects
Yeah,
and
because I
examples.
mean, I think it's like at the end of the day, how the hell are you gonna fail somebody if you just dropping off work at the house and saying whatever? You ain't fucking teaching them. You just like, hey, here's the shit. Where's it at? And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And they're like, I feel like this entire year is gonna be a wash, which is the craziest shit ever. It's like you could be
Yeah.
a dude that, you hear these stories like Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis dominated when he became a running back, but he didn't become a running back until the final game of the exhibition season. So now they say he
Yeah.
made a tackle on a kickoff, and they were like, Terrell Davis is going to be on the team. So right now, you don't get to fucking be a Terrell Davis. A whole year is gone.
Yeah.
So if you were like,
Yeah.
say you were a senior in high school, and you were like, this is the year I'm going to show out, then I'm going to go to the league. You don't got that no more. How are they even supposed to manage that?
But it's not everybody who doesn't have that. So this is where the kind of qualities of scale come into place. Where if you have access to resource, if you have kind of a support system around you who has the financial and kind of wherewithal and everything else in order to kind of put kind of these structures in place, you're not going to miss a beat. You're gonna still get the same education. You're still gonna get the same kind of knowledge and the same journey. It's just gonna come over the course of a computer inside of this. For families who don't have that ability to be able to get private tutors, to be able to kind of pay for these high top level programs, like that's where you're missing out on your Terrell Davises. That's where kids basically they just get lost in the gap in that education.
And I feel
gap.
like it's obviously not only the responsibility of you, but of the responsibility of these programs that people kind of take for granted to pick up
Yeah.
that slack, and not only pick up that slack, but to find those hidden gems and bring them to the next level. Because anybody can be anybody. You never know what's going on in anybody's life at the time. And you said programming in that last statement that you made, and one of the questions I do want to ask you is, what do you think that we need more of in these kids' lives?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of great organizations. There's a lot of great STEM organizations, a lot of great sports organizations. So I think the first step is just talking to parents, talking to guardians of kids. It's just to get your kids involved in something and get them active. Just like you were saying, you were in that class and you were soldering for the first time. My mom threw me in some random science program over the summer around the same age that you were. And I was doing the same thing. I'll go boards and soldering, and that stuff stays with you, man. And that stuff opens your mind up to be like, okay, like there's different lanes and there's different kind of success pathways. And there's
Somebody
just
said,
different.
I said, when I said, what do we need more of? Somebody said, Jesus. God damn it.
There you go.
Don't you
There you
do it.
go.
Don't destroy my
There you go.
podcast before it gets started.
I was gonna say, you start talking that talk, and then Ray gets derailed, and my education episode turned into something else. You know what I'm saying? But the first part though, man, is just getting your kids involved with something, man. Now, it specifically, if you're looking at kind of what kids really need, I mean, I think they need some kind of art infusion. And I'm not just talking about just sitting around playing with watercolors, but I'm talking about like music. I'm talking about the actual kind of arts, man, and just kind of a study of that, or even an infusion of that. We try to infuse art into all of our STEM programs last year, and then this year we're kind of blowing it out a little bit more. We have a final project for our kids. I hope nobody's listening because we didn't tell them what it is yet. But basically, we're doing a songwriting and entrepreneurship project. It's going to be over a course of 2 weeks where they're going to be on the team. And they're in the music business. They need to write a song. They need to record the song. Then they need to create a marketing plan for that song. They'll have a budget. They need to figure out how much they're going to allocate towards marketing, how much they're going to allocate towards the actual release of that song. They're going to talk with studio engineers. We're going to partner them with local artists in the city who are actually doing these things. And they're going to kind of get that education of art, of English language arts, of kind of writing, of it all kind of wrapped up in one. So somebody said
No, I'm
something.
not. No. Nobody said something. It was fucking, what you said was perfect, because as we go forward, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. I was going to talk about some music shit that was just like that. So it was like, damn, this is crazy.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, man? That's some crazy shit. The as far as like the school system, and I don't know if you're really familiar in it, what is your opinion of special education?
Yeah. So we have a partnership with Boston Public Schools, and then we also work with other school districts throughout Massachusetts. We do programming everywhere, but we're concentrated here in Mass. We haven't kind of delved really deep into special ed, so I don't want to kind of pronounce myself as an expert or kind of anything like that, man. But there's definitely, just like there's flaws just in the overall system, I think there's a lot of flaws and a lot of non kind of within that space, especially as it relates to students being, especially students of color, especially students kind of in these kind of underrepresented districts being given IEPs right away, and kind of that tying in with the funding that schools are getting. Like, there's a lot of nasty business that's going on with that relationship. And I think, and some of the best stories that I've heard are parents who are advocating for their kids, right? And this is something where it's tough to put this on the parents because a lot of parents just don't know. But and a lot of parents, and it's not even to their fault. They have trust in their teachers. They have trust in the schools. So when the schools say, "Hey, like, your kid has this kind of a problem or needs, and here's the results for it," like, they're apt to accept that rather than kind of ask questions and really kind of dig a little deeper. But those parents who sit there and repeatedly ask why, what's that mean? What are the results of that? Those are the ones who can kind of help kind of save their kids and pull them out of some of these kind of pitfalls that are already in place that these kids just naturally kind of fall into. And it's not, and I don't want to put it on even like the teachers or administrators being a bad guy. It's the system, right? It's the system that profits from having a certain number of kids in special education, dumbing down that educational process for those kids so that their grades are higher, so that they can get more funding. And it's just a nasty cycle.
So, I mean, with that being said, as far as my experience with it, like, I look at it, and I was talking to one of my friends earlier about it specifically, that in my experience, where that I was diagnosed with ADHD. So that apparently puts you in the bracket of, a learning disability. I'm at the point where, I guess, in the way that Brookline's structured, obviously you have Jamaica Pond, which is, there's projects over there, and then where I lived, which there's projects over there, and it seemed like everybody was in special ed in those two projects. I was watching a video earlier with Huey Newton, and actually one of the speakers, who I sent him a request earlier to try to talk to him because I never heard of him until today, was talking about these specific numbers in 1988. That was like, oh, well, like 80% of minorities get put in special education, up to Dr. Umar saying it, 4 years ago. And I'm like, this is the same thing. We're talking, if I would have wiped out the visual of what I was watching earlier, you would have thought it was fucking 2020.
You want to know what timeline it is,
So, as far as like what my experience was, I get put in there because I'm hyperactive, but that hyperactive brand stays with you until everybody wants to say it. Teachers only say stuff like, "Oh, did you take your medication today?" Instead of like, "Okay, well, let me try to find some type of common ground for you to," because once again, if I can tell you a story about me remembering making a fucking robot, obviously I should have been making more fucking robots. But now what happens is you put me in a class with somebody who has a real learning disability, and I don't. So I'm like, you got me with this dude, and it's the same standard of work across the board. So it's like I can act up and do whatever the fuck I want, and then when it's time to do the work, it's like, oh, there it is, it's done. You know what I'm saying?
And you're not being challenged, and because you're not being, and then also you have the stigma that's placed on you, and you have the ceiling that's capped on you, and you don't even know it, right? So your friends who aren't in that, they're getting different degrees of work, and they're taking honors classes and AP classes, and that's putting them in the classifications to be able to kind of get into better colleges and have better marks and blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. And you're capped, you know what I'm saying? And they're incentivized to keep you in there because of funding, because
that's not being told to anybody,
several
but
other things.
To touch on what you said earlier, it's like, I had a couple friends that, every time somebody tried to put them in special education, their parents would show up and go, "Yo, fuck that. He's not going to special education and he's not taking medication." And I look at him now like, motherfucker, you should have went to special education. You should have took some medication because you didn't even graduate now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but they're fighting without a solution. And that's a big part of kind of what's going on in America right now. The fight needs to lead towards some type of solution. So don't tell me, hey, no, that's not for him. But then now when he comes home, you're not tutoring him and making him a better fucking student. That's not going to work either. Because now you get lost and you don't even graduate.
Yeah. And it's a multifaceted problem, right? Because you definitely need a trusted educational layer to identify kids and then monitor kids and see kind of exactly kind of where their levels are, because and make sure that they're being properly assessed continuously. But then also too, you need that home structure. When that kid gets home, they need to be able to kind of have to know they have to sit down and know they have to get their homework done, and there needs to be communication there. Parents saying, like, looking at their kids trying to struggle with their homework, struggle with their fractions, and say, like, hey, like, then talk to their teacher, say, like, hey, there's some problems here with the fractions, and the teacher accepting that information and then putting some resources in front of that kid so that they can kind of get that skill that they need. Man, that communication system, that cycle, isn't there in most
Yeah,
cases.
I just had a fucking epiphany while you were talking, because you know how they have an app for your phone? Like if your kids are driving, they download it and it won't let them send any text while they're driving.
I'm with you. You about to make $1 million deal? Turn off the podcast real quick, man,
You
so we
know
can
me,
get
man. I
this
got
money,
millions
man.
of ideas. This shit don't matter. I'm gonna give this to y'all. See if y'all really gonna fucking do this. What you do is you get an app that you put on their phone and their game that has to be a certain amount of minutes of said thing completed before that shit even works.
Kids would
Of course
revolt.
they will, but what you gonna revolt
Kids,
against? If a
they will.
motherfucking eat these lima beans and do this fucking work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But even with that, man, that takes a parent to set that time and then to really be monitoring that. And it's a tough problem, man. Like we talk to families all the time, man, and we try to kind of step in and serve and be on some community. It takes a community to raise a child stuff. We try to help be part of that community to raise these kids when we have them, because you got parents out here who may have multiple kids, who may have multiple jobs, and they're working hard, and they're doing the best they can do just to get their kids to school, just to get their kids to class, and they're putting a lot of trust in their teachers. And if the teachers are doing the best that they can, but they're under resourced and they're handcuffed and the system's fucked up, then it's just a bad cycle, man. That kind of pushes a lot of kids towards failure, and I don't know, man. There's this it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
With that being said, moving forward, what do you think that we can do without or with less of, as far as the school
Yeah.
system, as far as every aspect of like how kids are taught?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, like I said, man. I mean, I think continuous learning is definitely the key, and I say that, and I mean that on a couple of different fronts, man. I mean, definitely kind of like in school and at home, but then really throughout the school year, man. Like I don't have all the statistics off the top of my head, but I can share them with you after this. But there have been studies done to show the effectiveness of summer learning programs, and showing kind of, especially as it relates to kind of black and brown kids, and kind of when they have those resources and when they're active in those programs and when they're not, and the effects that has on them moving forward throughout the school year, man. I think that's huge. And then just regular people, kind of not even necessarily parents or guardians, man, but like just supporting these programs. If you have access to resources that can help these programs, or or you can donate, or if you can volunteer time, I mean, all that stuff helps, man. I know, as somebody who runs a nonprofit, man, like we have our little Amazon thing, and every time we get a little 13 cents from there, man. You know what I'm saying? I might get a little tear come down my eye, man, because I
That
know
shit
what we
definitely
can
adds
do.
up. You just hope that at one point somebody's gonna take the ball and just fucking run. If somebody takes the ball and run,
Yeah.
I remember somebody telling me a story about how they got in on like Avon, and he said that the
Mhm.
dude that he knew that got in on Avon got his church, the pastor.
Okay. Oh wow.
And you already know that
Oh
once
wow.
the pastor got involved, everybody had to
Mhm.
have holy water in Avon. So it just took off, and the motherfucker was rich. He said he had an island when he was done.
Oh.
So yeah,
Oh
so I
man.
mean, those are the type of things that you just, you hear the stories and you're like, yo, like everything that I'm about is in thinking with so much positivity in terms of how we can change the world and how we can kind of affect people in a better light. And you just hope that people take that into account in themselves when they're thinking about everything. You get people that, and I'll just stop right there because we're gonna move forward. Motherfucker. Hold on one second.
I like where you was going with
We
that,
gonna
man,
listen.
because
Hey,
like
we gonna stay on it. But I'll start with another question and we'll get back to it.
I was about. Oh,
So we gonna
well,
start getting into some nonprofit slash life type stuff. And my next question would be, I hear this a lot, mostly from racist people. What do we do to fix the black community?
oh man. Oh man. Who's we? that's I guess that's my counter to
Well,
your
whoa,
very
yo, to be
broad
very, very fair,
open
the guy,
question.
to be fair, because I'll blend these next two questions in together. The guy who asked me this is not one of the racists. He's really just actually
Hmm.
concerned, and I asked him for a story, but didn't have the time to write it. Grew up in Baltimore, like in The Wire, Baltimore, and is a white dude, and he
Okay,
made money while he was
be
there.
more.
Yeah, like Omar's coming.
Yeah. Okay.
So he said that at one point he wanted to help, and he went to become a teacher at an inner city Baltimore school. And they told him, because if you remember yesterday, I mean last week, I challenged any white person to say, "Let me know when somebody told you you couldn't be some shit because you were white."
Yeah.
Now he didn't say that they told him verbatim that, but they basically
Hmm.
inferred that, why do you want to be a teacher here if you're white and everybody here is black? And his mindset was that, well, I want to do whatever I can to help change people for the better. And what's crazy is I don't think people realize there's that aspect on both sides of it. So even if you have good intentions, there could be somebody on the other side that's preventing your intentions from coming, to light.
Yeah. Um, to kind of go back to your question, there's different we. There's the universal we, right? I mean, I think that kind of just gets into just having compassion and respect for one another, and just having open ears to each other's kind of shared experiences. There's the white we, right? How can white people kind of help kind of black people in this cause, man? And I think it's about education. It's about kind of, and it's about awareness. And a lot of times it's easy to brush things off when it's not happening to you, or when it's happening to them, or when it's happening over there. But just in recent light of kind of what's going on, especially with these protests and this police brutality, this latest full round of police brutality, and not just black people getting hit with these sticks and sprayed with these hoses, but it's white people, it's brown people, it's everyone in between. I think that's opening people's eyes, but keeping your eyes open, that's huge. And then black people, man, we education is the key, but also, man, we have to communicate. We can't keep working in silos. We can't keep trying to solve this problem kind of in these pockets, man. We have to come together. We have to kind of find a message, find a voice, and really kind of dictate terms. And until we do that, man, you see change, but it's going to be slow.
Um, so, and just to say, like I said, everybody that's watching right now, anybody that's going to listen in the future, please subscribe, follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube is Imperfect Audio, Facebook.com/Imperfect Audio. Everything will be up on Spotify tomorrow. I tell people it's easier because on Spotify I can just let my shit play and then it will stop and be where I want it to be. So if I'm listening to a bunch of podcasts, I can listen to it, kind of go forward. And I do listen to podcasts throughout the week to kind of get everybody else's perspective, because I'm going to take into account people's perspective before I smash that shit into the ground and make up my own shit.
There you go.
Um,
There you go.
One of these things that I've been seeing a lot recently is so and so's donations came from here. Bill Gates is going to slam a vaccine in your ass and you dead. As a nonprofit person, I'm a nonprofit
Yeah.
person. Do you give a shit
Yeah.
if somebody shows up and just goes, "Hey, Alex, you know what? I'm gonna give you $1 million, but my plan is to destroy niggas everywhere," and you're just like, "Well, that's not my plan, so I'm gonna take that $1 million and counter your plan."
Yeah, I love that question. It's tough though, right? Because me personally, I know if you give me $1 million, if you give me $1,000, if you give me $10, I know how I'm gonna make that stretch. I know I'm gonna impact kind of populations of families and students in need, man, and it's the same kind of with your work as well, which is kind of why we vibe and why we've been rocking for so long. But the problem that comes into place with that is the optics of it, man. So that if I'm taking dirty money from XYZ, then that's going to prevent me from getting in rooms and getting money to do other things in the future. So that's on a qualm with it. I know I want the money, but I don't want to be shut out because I took that money. And I think that's the kind of
So I
biggest
guess
problem that nonprofits face with that.
what the statement comes down to is this: I guess if somebody said, "Yo, you know what? I want to give you $1 million today," and you knew it was like some fucking it was like a shady situation, or somebody that was like didn't agree with what you were saying, or you know what, you know wholeheartedly that you're gonna make like $10,000 over the next like 20 years, which it's not the same
Hmm.
amount of money, but you know your morals are intact, so to say, in your mind. But where you're at right now is like, yo, I have this fucking plan that I want to do right now, and I need two
Yeah.
hundred thousand dollars right now. Um, and to kind of segue that into a story that I got. I was in Midland, Texas. I can't remember. It was like 5 years ago. I'm still trying to financially
I'm,
recover from it.
I'm gonna ask you why you were in nowhere,
Well, I was
Texas.
in Nowhere, Texas, because we had a uniform order that customs decided to stop for no fucking apparent reason, and the
Okay.
owner of an entire youth organization, mind you, um, in middle of Texas, so like football
Oh
is
wow.
deaf or fucking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm either it's either oil or football.
Yeah.
So I go down there. They won't release it to me. So I'm like, okay, I got to drive 10 hours from Dallas to Midland because the pickup was in Dallas, but there's an airport in Midland, but I had to drive into Dallas. So about a quarter of the way to Midland, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking hungry. Let me Google, you know what I'm saying, what there is to eat over here. And it was one place, it was called Juju's Barbecue in
Okay.
Potosi, Texas. Y'all can look that shit up, right?
That sound like you made that
You
all
don't
the
even
way
want to
up.
know the picture of this motherfucking place, and I would throw it up here, but I don't have it on my computer. Maybe wait a minute. Wait a motherfucking minute. I might have that shit. I'll throw it right over our
You
faces
about
just
to
so people can see it real quick.
you about to screen share? Oh, look at you with the
No,
technology,
no, no,
man.
no, no, no,
This
no, no,
is
no, no.
it took you 5 episodes, boy. My boy
Hey,
came up,
listen,
boy.
man, I'm trying to get this episode, man. You know what I'm saying, man? Let me see if I can get it in there. I'm gonna fuck around and shut down the whole internet with this shit.
Exactly. Watch. Podcast shut down for 2 weeks because of
All
this.
because I'm showing you some racism.
I seen it before. I can close my
But
eyes and
boom,
still
there it is. I got it
get
over
a.
both of our faces right now, just so y'all can see it for 2 seconds. Right?
I can't
Yeah,
even
you'll be
see it.
able to see it later. Don't worry about that. That shit's
Okay.
going down now. Where's that shit at?
Live. Hold it down and get a feedback as to
So, anyways,
what.
I go to this place to get barbecue. My wife's like, now mind you, I drove past fucking Jeepers Creepers fucking cornfields to get to this motherfucking place. So we pull up. It's just a dirt fucking road, and they're selling barbecue out the fucking top. And my wife's like, I'm not going to that fucking place. You're fucking crazy. So I'm like, yo, we gotta eat. Ain't nothing else next to us. So I go out. I take a picture of this random like caricature coon doll they have in the corner. Like, yo, what the fuck's going
Oh
on in
no.
here? So I get out.
What year is this, by the way? Just to set the
It's
scene.
like fucking 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Continue
like,
on.
I guess it was like 4 years after Mississippi outlawed slavery. So so I posted online. I posted on my Facebook, and I said, risking my life for some barbecue, and I had 3 black people come on shit. Well, I wouldn't even have ate there. You know what I'm saying? Why'd you even eat there? And I said, because I had to eat. Like, what do you mean? So and they go, well, I would have ordered the shit and left. And I'm like, no, it's a 10 hour drive. It's a 10 hour drive. So I drove
Yeah.
past a real fucking ghost town. Like if you look it up
It's
to
like,
where I was at, it's a real ghost town. Like there was a post out, like I'm the
yeah.
sheriff now type ghost town. Like they just pick up a badge and they just run the shit now, like the Django type shit. So I said I have to fucking eat. Like that doesn't even make any sense at the end of the day. Like what am
Yeah.
I supposed to do? Starve to death for my fucking principles? Like, and trust me, if I could, I am the person that would. So to
Yeah.
kind of go from that to that person that said that and 3 other people that said that on that post have not fucking donated $1 in 10 years. Now,
Yeah.
mind you,
And
go
and
ahead.
even and even beyond that, like if they were in the middle of nowhere and that's the only food spot and you've been driving for God knows how many hours, they gonna stop and get them some brisket too. Like it's you gonna get the food.
Yeah,
Like
but that's the
it's
thing. Everybody, until they're in that situation, wants to play like over the top Black Lives fucking matter to the max. And I tell people all the time, I get into arguments with super over the top Afrocentric Black people just as much as I get into arguments with racist white people because it's both two fucking of the dumbest logics I've ever seen in my life. Where it's like, you know, Eminem can't rap. Like, what are we doing here? This is a fucking real
yeah.
conversation. So with that being said, like kind of what I touched on in the beginning is that in the 10 years that I've done this, I got a shitload of people on my profile that's always talking about Black Power this, Black Power that, and they ain't donated a
Uh,
fucking dime. And I got in between
mhm,
5 Trump supporters, that donate
mhm.
minimum of $1,000 each every fucking year. So what the fuck am I supposed to do? Not eat the barbecue?
Yeah,
I'll be starving and won't be able to fucking fund and change the world. Because at the end of the day, I know that whatever happens with that money, I'm taking it to a point where I'm changing people's lives.
yeah, and part of the expression, but things can't be black and white, right? Like you got to kind of look at these things on a case by case basis. Like you've been driving for 10 hours and you stuck in middle of nowhere, Texas, and it's the only food spot. Go eat some food, like because you dying, it's not going. You know what I'm saying? And then even with that too, like a lot of people, a lot of people who are for the cause, a lot of people who are woke, uh, they just woke on this computer. They just woke on that
For real,
internet. They
because yo,
just
listen,
woke
I
with
could
it.
have died of starvation and you still wouldn't be sharing my shit.
So it's like. And you're better than me, man, because I don't have the energy or patience to be arguing with people online and stuff. But I see it happening, and it's just a lot of people are talking about change. A lot of people are talking about kind of being active and doing things. A lot of people aren't doing it, man. And it's just like, I, God bless. It's like, go ahead, man. I
I
got
saw
you.
I saw a
I got
meme
you.
the other day, and it said what did it say? It said, but I see a million of them in different variations, so it's hard for me to put together. It's like a support black business meme, and then it says, okay,
Yeah.
and then some lady comments under it, but black business meme doesn't mean your shirts are $45, your t-shirt are $45. Yes, the fuck it does. Yes, the fuck it does, everybody, because black businesses are usually buying 20 fucking shirts at a time, not 25,000 like Walmart. And then, mind you, your stupid ass is still gonna go buy a fucking Dolce & Gabbana shirt for $585 anyway.
That was gonna be my flip. That was gonna be my flip. It's not even. It's not even the $40 that you got to spend on that black business. And that show is $40 not because it's a black business, just because it's a new business and because the scale of economy and just the economics behind producing goods is like. But that you can't complain about that $40 shirt if you're gonna then go spend
Correct. I
two
mean,
racks
right
on.
now you're looking at, and I noted these all down. The new black craze for Clase Azul tequila is 125 fucking dollars. So
What was the tequila? You were cutting out for a second.
Clase Azul, the like porcelain
Oh,
white one with the
yeah,
blue, and I've
yeah, I've
seen
seen
it a
that.
million times, and that's the new like ultimate where the fucking buying some tequila shit. I'm a Don Julio guy. I'm good with that. But now I'm saying you spend $125, then you come to me and complain about my shirt. Guess what? My shirt's gonna last longer than a night. And
Yeah.
it ain't just specifically me because I do this shit. And in order for me to speak on it and say like I'm going to do it, like for instance, everybody's like, oh, black banking, One United. I switched. I didn't switch, but I opened up a One United account. They have the worst fucking customer service I've ever dealt with in my
I,
entire fucking life. And I was like, I told them that. Listen, I try to do this, but you guys have the worst customer service I've ever dealt with in my life. So I don't even know why you have a platform. Because I swear to fucking God, if I like speak life into you, whether it be one of my friends or somebody else, then I expect you to deliver wholeheartedly. Just like if somebody's like, yo, I got tickets to a game, I expect you to represent yourself accordingly. So represent yourself accordingly if I'm referring to you.
I had the same experience with One United, man. I was on my, you know what I'm saying? I was on my, we going to do this, man. We going to support this black banking. And I got the Bank of America account. I got the Citizens account and all that through like businesses and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to push some of this money over here to this black bank. And man, the online, it was just a whole list of just problems, man. The online access wasn't there like half the time. I couldn't get on at night. Like, it was just like, it's just kind of,
Yo, I fucking changed my address
it
like
was
three
crazy,
times, and
man.
they're like, "Oh, you need a new card," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "I did this already. Like, don't y'all have a notation system?" And I have a small credit union too, Harvard University Credit Union. I use them as well, and I'm
Yeah.
like, they don't have this type of issue, and you guys are a bigger bank than them. So obviously, you didn't take it to. And then another thing that really made me mad about them is them using the Kaepernick narrative and not sponsoring Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So they kept saying like, "Oh, players are kneeling," and I'm like, "Why don't you give that man some money so he can actually change the fucking world instead of using his likeness in the most sketchy of ways. Because as you
Yeah.
see, go
Or
ahead.
not, or not even give them money, right? Because that's just one piece of it. But like, reach out to him, partner with his organization, and give bank accounts to the youth that he's serving. You know what I'm saying? Like, take that stuff to the next level. Like, don't just give him some money one time so that he could be the face of your thing, so that you can open up more bank accounts and still have a janky online system. Like really kind of try to affect some change. And that's the level of vetting that we need to do. And that's when I said, like, when you said kind of like, how do we solve this? Like, as black people, we need to communicate, man, and we need to be like, business over there, but they don't have their stuff together yet. But this one does. So let's support these two, these three, and you know what I'm saying? And
So
let's try
I
to kind
mean,
of
with what you said is that I bought a shirt one time. I think it was like 2 years ago, and the shirt just said "Buy Black." Right? It took like
mhm,
fucking 5 weeks to come here, and it was from UK, and the ship was $39, and it was like a
yeah,
regular, like the worst quality T-shirt you could have. So even if
mhm,
I messaged the dude in his inbox and I said, whatever this is, improve. Like, I don't even care
yeah,
about the money. But if you
yeah,
telling me I'm paying this much for this shirt, then you need to take that shit to the next level. And with that being said, on the line of like our company, FTL, we fucking reinvest in the community, and everything just comes down to like the cheapest possible thing to where you're not even seeing it. Don't fucking say over
mhm,
here that you want people to invest in the community, and then over here you use, the cheapest possible company because it was cheap for you at the time, even though I'm reinvesting in everything that is
yeah,
about the community that you're in. Donations with fucking actual evidence of donations all over the place. Fucking my partner, fucking Ralph, donates to shit all fucking year long. We had a
mhm.
dude that owed us like 3K. Ralph used their service, and then he still didn't pay us back. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck are you like? How does that make
Yeah,
sense
it's
in your
crazy.
head? How does that make sense in your head when you're not understanding reinvesting in everything that's around you before it breaks down to nothing, and then you cry that it's like for instance in Dudley, what's the fucking word that they're saying everybody's taking over?
What they trying to change the
Gentrification.
name to?
Gentrification.
Oh,
Okay.
gentrification. Okay.
Gentrification is impossible if you own that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Here it is, as clean as that.
It,
If you own that shit in the 30 fucking years it was there, gentrification in a neighborhood where everybody shares a common ground is fucking impossible.
so you're going on two different waves real quick. So I want to talk about that. I'm putting a pin in that with these black businesses. Just because you make that buy black shirt doesn't mean that that person is kind of like with the cause and kind of has the right mindset of giving back. A lot of people are out here just trying to get a check and scamming off the scam. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We've
so
seen it.
it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said there has to, like, it buy black as a concept, like, let that sink in, everybody. But also too, let's communicate and let's figure out who's really doing good business out here, and let's put our money towards the good business, and let everybody else who's scamming for a dollar try to figure that out. With the gentrification piece, man, that's something that kind of touches like hits at home with me, man. I'm in my family home right now in Roxbury on the Dorchester line, and you know what I'm saying, like, it. And I see the neighborhood changing, man. I see developers coming in here, taking kind of old, kind of all these homes, converting them into condos, pushing up the rents, pushing up the values of the homes, so we can't buy them back, and so that we can't even rent them. So that the whole kind of neighborhood is changing from that standpoint, man. And it comes to, it's too late to try to mobilize and get in the game now to try to really kind of fight against this kind of real estate takeover, because we're late. We're 10 years too late. Like, it's been happening. But
In
what
Boston,
we
you're
can,
right. In Boston,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
certainly right.
yeah, 100%, 100% Boston. In other places, like, no, where you are, kind of like take a look at the landscape and kind of do what's going on there. Here in
Talking about
Boston,
Coronaville?
what's going on is where you are is Coronaville. We stay masked up over here. Where you are is Coronaville. Don't put that evil on us, Ricky Bobby. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, man. Like, so what's great about Boston, and maybe people who aren't from here or people who kind of really don't know, like, Boston, the townships of Boston is black. and brown, but it's, you know what I'm saying? It's black. Dorchester, Roxbury, Hyde Park, Mattapan, Rosendale, like these are black and brown communities, and these are and the families who have been there for years. And the message that needs to go out is don't sell your home. Fix your home, reinvest in your home, pass your home down to your kids. When mom dies and the kids get the home, the first thing they want to do is sell the home to get a quick check. It's like, no, keep that home, fix that home up, and then get that cash flow from the rental and live, and you know what I'm saying, be supported by that home and start to build generational wealth that way, rather than getting one small kind of cash flow. You can have a lifelong, you know what I'm saying, you can have a whole life time full of, you know what I'm saying, of wealth that's being built.
Yeah, unquestionably. I mean, you like with I guess there's such a big difference between when you come down here and motherfucker, you said you was getting a bottle, you went and grabbed goddamn fucking pH
Not,
water.
oh, relax. We here. We here with
Okay,
both
I'm
friends.
just making sure, man. I'm like, hey, what we doing here, man? I'm gonna be the only motherfucker drinking.
Yeah, come on now, come on now.
Uh, so I think it's crazy because when down south people and up north people beat, there's like completely different issues as to where like in Florida, I think like it was at this point 3 years ago, I bought my house for $70K and could rent it
Mm-hmm.
for $1,200. Like
That's
to
amazing.
rent something for $1,200 in Massachusetts, you'd have to have bought it for $400K.
You're not getting nothing.
Yeah, so I'm like, people don't understand what I'm telling you to like, yo, if you're gonna buy something, come down here. And then people always come down here to Disney and buy a fucking timeshare, and I'm like, no, buy a house share. Because then you could rent it, and then when you come here, you stay in it, or you can Airbnb it. But I think that is a whole other aspect, and that's why I fucking absolutely love your music production idea. Because actually, speaking to something like that, and I'll skip ahead and talk about that shit now. Something as simple as teaching people how the industry works makes stuff so much different, makes deals like Little Yachty's deals so much different.
Yeah,
Why would you
yeah,
ever, if you have a buzz of 1 million followers on YouTube, ever need a label at all?
yeah. And Yachty in particular is in an interesting situation because it, like, I'm assuming you're kind of directly referencing the interaction he had with Joe Budden, where he was just like, where he just didn't know shit about his deal,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, and Joe Budden was like, "So what's going on? You got 360? We got," and he just was looking at him like blank face, like ask them, right? And now, usually with these artists on that scale, when they point out and they can say ask them, it's usually somebody who is not from the culture, is not. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have a cultural kind of tie to them to kind of really even be able to kind of look out for them. Yachty's in a rare case where he has a good structure around him, but a lot of these other artists aren't. And a lot of these artists are in the same boat as Yachty, where they don't know what their deal is, they don't know what their splits are looking like, they don't know where their masters are, they don't know who owns their production and what production companies are signed to, and so on and so forth, man. And it's messy.
I
It's
just look at
messy.
it and I'm like, at this point, how does once you create your buzz and your deal, like you, if I was, for instance, like I hate to bring this up because you're gonna go down the fucking rabbit hole with somebody like JayZ telling people how to make $10 million from $1 million. Why don't you tell these dudes to sign 2 year deals at a time? So if your buzz goes so crazy that then you just go, you know what? I don't need a label anymore. I'm independent because nobody really presses hard copies anyway. So I think like the numbers, like I was watching The Shop with LeBron and and Travis Scott was on it and LeBron was like, well, I mean, like the Grammys and shit like that. Why don't we just make our own shit? And Travis Scott was like,
Yeah.
nah, because we aspire to that. And he just wasn't grasping it to the point where I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't understand that you selling an independent 200,000 copies might make you more money than you selling a label sponsored 10 million.
You gonna bring me on another time, and we gonna have this JayZ Kanye debate that you're gonna lose on your own podcast, and you know what I'm saying. And you might, you know what I'm saying. But to that point, and I'm gonna tie in JayZ a little bit, then I'm gonna leave it. JayZ's been giving them that game from the beginning, man. Rockefeller Records, they came up, they were trying to knock on label doors, trying to get that deal, and I'll give more credit to it than Dame Dash, and I think me and you both have an appreciation. Oh, see your face kind of for pushing for that independence. especially in the beginning, for saying we're not going to be able to get the deal structure that we need from these labels. So fuck it, we gotta go take our own money, shoot our own videos, press up our own records, and go out there and really kind of get this thing going. Because if we trying to rely on these people to give us some money and to do X, Y, Z, it's just not going to happen. And that's a mindset that is still valuable in music. But then if you look at other aspects of business, if you look at what you're doing with the Tribal Bowl, if you're looking at what I'm doing with Steam EDD, if you're looking at other ventures that are kind of in our atmosphere, like it's kind of taking some of those same principles too of like we're not of the traditional kind of look or presentation to be able to go get $1 million to be able to fund an international sporting event that has a decade full of history. You know what I'm saying? We got to go and get it a little differently and fight to get to that seat at the table. That whole fight is a different fight, and it's a lot harder. And we can kind of talk about all the systematic kind of reasons why that fight is harder, but like that's that mindset that needs to happen, and it translates in music, and it translates in nonprofits, and it translates in business, and kind of everywhere in between.
Yeah. Um.
And JayZ is a better
Yeah. Stop
overall
that
rapper
shit.
than Kanye.
Stop that shit. You stop that shit. That's page 17. We don't do that.
Okay.
Um.
That's part 3.
So as far as this presidency, because I really like to get at this shit. Yeah, it is a nice shirt, fucking Tim. I bigged that shit up in the first 5 minutes, but you wasn't in here. You know what I'm saying? Just to let you know that happened. When y'all get that on the 10, 25-second delay, let me know. The has this presidency, as far as the shit that they put in place, actually affected you? Because in my opinion, the presidency, nothing has changed as far as me. The only thing that's changed is the people that might kill me walking down the street because I'm wearing a Kaepernick jersey.
Yeah. The country's worse, but the country was getting worse under Obama, and just the it's tough, man, because not directly, but I'm sure indirectly in ways that I don't even understand yet. Right. I think that's the kind of answer to it, man. But like my day to day and the way I'm kind of attacking the work that I'm doing, like I'm not on the scale of and I don't
look, make no
take
mistake.
in
I mean, like
that Trump
before
bullshit either.
coronavirus, like the regular shit before
Yeah,
coronavirus.
I'm
Like
hip to
this
what you're
shit
saying.
is could have happened to anybody.
I'm hip to what you're saying, and like no, and it's because it's because I'm kind of operating this from an entrepreneurial mindset, and I'm kind of attacking it that way. It no, not directly, man. It's a tough question, and I feel like I'm kind of stuttering and stammering a little bit because I know he's out here appointing appointing judges on kind of like on all levels that you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying
they're gonna
that
be there so
affect.
far down the road that it could affect you. I mean, that they do that shit
Yeah,
every
or even,
presidency.
but even today though, right? Like with some of the lower court appointments that he's making, man, like, and just some of these bills that are being passed that I'm not paying attention to, and that are just happening, kind of maybe not on the front page of the newspaper or on CNN. Like I know there's a ton of shit that's going on that's just nasty right now, and it's just setting the country back, and it's kind of shelved in racist and ideals and just and not even it being racist, but then also it just having a just blatant disregard for the kind of for just kind of poor people and for the middle class, right?
I mean, I think
It's really
that the statements certainly sound like that, but in actuality, there was plenty of Democrats on when you're bailing
yeah,
out a fucking cruise ship that doesn't even pay United States taxes.
yeah. I mean, Trump and his press conferences and shit like that, like it's not affecting me personally, man. I know he's a clown. I was watching The Apprentice when he was running that shit, and he was a clown then, and he's a clown now. He's gonna leave the presidency, be it after this cycle or in another 4 years, and he's gonna run Fox News 2, Trump Network, or whatever the fuck, and he's gonna be a clown then. So it's like, it's just like I just
That's
I don't.
so fucking true. I didn't even think of that. I mean, what are you? Unquestionably, the marketing is impeccable.
Yeah, but it's part of being black, man. Like you'll talk to people and they'll say like, "Are you affected by what's going on outside in the protests?" And if you're like, "It's just been happening my whole life. This shit been happening. This ain't new." Like the political system and kind of people who are kind of setting laws in place in order to kind of affect black men, black people, minority people, poor people, middle class people, like these things have been in place in our whole lives. You know what I'm saying? So we've been fighting that fight. And it's made me super skeptical, and it's made me super like not hopeful. But but even with that, man, I try to find some optimism and try to kind of push forward my work, and I try to grow my sphere and affect change as I can, man, to fight. So,
Yeah, I
what
mean, what you're saying, it's 100% true, and it's like you look at it. Like I have friends that they're like, "Oh, I'm not on Facebook," and you're not on Facebook, so you're not even facing like the fucking worst of the worst. You know, where you see something like, Kobe Bryant died of a helicopter crash, and then you got fucking 45 people, and they're like, "Thank God that motherfucker died," and I'm like, oh my
yeah,
god, is this what this is what we become? While these people are also, say that they're said religion, and then that religion still turns into, and it's not even an attack on Christianity. It's all religion has turned into kind of a fucking agreement of what I want to follow and what I don't want to follow and what I feel sounds good and what I don't feel sounds good. And then at the end of the day, you want to never look in the mirror and look at yourself as to what you sound like when you're saying, somebody deserves to die, but there's also supposed to be forgiveness, and we have, fucking, thousands of molester priests, but nobody mentions them on a regular basis like they mention all this other stuff. And now we're, you know, at a place where you have people like Jeffrey Epstein and fucking molesters all over the place. And at this point, people are like, oh, you're wasting your vote. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about my vote. I give a fuck about who's molesting people.
yeah, and it's just nasty, man. And everything is politicized. Like as you were talking about religion, as you were talking about kind of people online taking these stands, like everybody's looking for this us against them mentality. Even if they don't, even if they're working off of misinformation, they're even if it's just bullshit, like right, they're just looking to have a side and be able to argue, instead of really being able to listen, take in information, and be like, oh, okay, like damn, I was thinking about this from the wrong way, or times have changed and we're all opening our eyes to kind of XYZ issues and we need to examine it differently. Like people are less open to do that now, and and that's a sad thing culturally that's going on, man. And I mean, I don't see it getting better. And you're on Facebook and you're on Twitter and I mean, I'm on these platforms as well. I'm just not actively like just jumping in those
Yep.
conversations, man. But I see this shit too. I see this shit too.
What's So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and we're gonna go some current news slash conspiracy shit. Oh yeah,
Let's go.
let's do it. So my first one would be,
I go to this cup when you start talking that talk.
what happened? Oh hey, yeah, exactly. Go to that cup.
I go to
Hold
this
on
cup
one
when you start
second.
talking that talk.
God damn it! If that's what we're gonna do, I'm gonna do some
You
fine red
are.
wine.
I'll see this. Look, this guy's getting fancy, man. He got a podcast, couple episodes in the game. Now he out here
Yo,
drinking
listen.
wine.
Okay, this is crazy. This is crazy side story. This isn't even written down or nothing. They did a study. You can Google this shit, right? And they told people that one of the wines they were trying was worth $500. The other one was like a regular, barefoot yellowtail level wine. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because they told people that one of them was more expensive, they enjoyed it more. They hooked them up with a brainwave study. And I think that's a
Yeah,
lot of kind of what's happening in the United States now, as far as the way that people think about what's good, what's not. And they don't realize how much people are telling them what's good versus them trying to
yeah.
figure it out themselves. Um, you see a lot of theories about people going, oh, they're going to give you the vaccine and they're going to put a chip in your wrist. Shit like that. I guess people think, like, when kind of like how we are now with coronavirus, it's almost like 50-50. It has to be no or yes. You can't be in the
Mm-hmm.
middle and figure it out. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of how people are with conspiracy theories now. It's either like, yeah, I fully believe it, or motherfucker, you're crazy. And I'm in the middle of it. Like, I'll research it down to a certain extent. But like, do you think people are gonna try to put chips in your hands?
um, I like the setup there. There's a lot of misinformation out there, man. I mean, I think And that's what like fuels a lot of these conspiracy theories, right, man? You'll see somebody in their basement and they'll just be rambling about some XYZ Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden you have a whole community of people who are using this random video of somebody's musings in their basement as a source of truth for, just based on some bullshit. I've See, you got me set up here like I'm Dr. Mims or something like that, man. I don't have the, you know what I'm saying? I don't have the doctorate and all
Yeah,
that.
hey, you don't have to have an answer for us, so go ahead, give
I,
me something.
yeah, man. I mean, I know that governments, not just the U.S. government, but other governments as well, are looking at different ways in order to be able, especially as it relates to the coronavirus, they're looking at different ways to be able to not only kind of like create a vaccine, but then also track and monitor kind of people who had it, people who have it, people who come in contact with people with it, so that so that a whole bunch of countries are trying chips in hands, wearing bracelets, kind of apps and all this other stuff like that. So I'm sure that's being talked about, and I'm sure that information is out there. I'm not putting no fucking chip in my forearm
So two
so
like
that I could be
it's funny
beeping
that when
around.
you said that. So here's two crazy things right here, right? Say it was 1990, and I told you next time, I mean, in the future, you're gonna walk into a Walmart and everybody is gonna be, it's gonna just be robotic, like it's gonna be all auto
Yeah.
checkout. Yeah, you gonna
Hmm.
say no, that shit ain't gonna happen. I'm not gonna let
Yeah.
that shit happen, right?
Yeah.
I'll make sure there's a person there no matter what. So now, mind
Hmm.
you, I walk into fucking Walmart the other day, and the self checkout is extended 4 times the size
Yeah.
of a self checkout, and this is what's gonna happen. Hey,
Yeah. It's already happening.
no, exactly, but it's
Amazon.
happening now at a point where people are
Yeah.
gonna go like this. I feel safer now because I don't have to interact with a person because of
Yeah.
coronavirus. And now, guess what,
Hmm.
motherfucker? You're gonna feel safe at home forever because you ain't
Yeah.
making no fucking money, and they're about to put motherfucking robots all over that fucking place to the point where you go, damn, what happened? Why is it all self checkout now? I can't find a person to check out. What happened was coronavirus, and your ass got so fucking scared that you said it was okay when we told you to vote on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, right? Like now conspiracy theories, there's the gamut of it, right? Some of these are actually kind of futurist theorizing, right? And if just like to your point, right? Like just a store with no people in it, with no checkouts, with all automation and robotics and stuff like that. That shit sounds crazy. Look at some of these kind of Amazon concept products they have. They have the shit where they have the locks for the automatic locks for the doors, which is kind of pretty standard now. But like to allow delivery men to come inside your house and drop packages off, and you're not home, and they don't have a key, and it's just automatic swipe, and it's like all types of crazy shit going on. Drone
I
deliveries,
mean, yo,
right?
it's
Like
crazy.
if we talked about
People
drone
don't
deliveries
realize that
10,
drone
15 years
deliveries.
ago.
The only reason that drone deliveries aren't here is because really, it's like the United States is just like, nah, I'm not fucking with that because they can do that shit right now. It's really
Yeah.
a United States thing where they don't do it. Yeah, you said package, so we might as well really go down the rabbit hole.
My guy got notes,
You
man.
ready for the real rabbit hole?
Yo, I'm not ready for any of these rabbit holes, man. I'm trying,
So you heard about this Wayfair shit?
yo, so let me talk about my life for a little bit, man. I I've been in super school administrator mode for the last like 2 months, running programs during the morning, talking with teachers and parents in the afternoon, literally doing work, writing grants, talking to teachers, kind of doing my work and stuff like that at night. I don't know how I got this Wayfair information in my bubble, but I started seeing the names of the cabinets named after missing kids, and the shit was looking crazy. The shit was looking crazy.
Hold on, let me put it up on the screen because I do got two of them
Oh
in here
my
so people
god!
can see
Oh
what I'm
my
talking
god!
about.
Oh my god! That shit was wild.
This is the new Wayfair conspiracy. Let me bring this shit
A
to
wild
front.
shit. I believe that one. I believe that one. You got a cabinet named Amanda for ten thousand
No, bro, I
dollars.
wish it was named Amanda, but they're even more random. You got one called Samaya, you got Naraya, you got
Yeah.
Jaritza, you got Alavia. What, like, that's not even a regular white girl name. Like, call that shit Karen.
And I would shout out Wayfair. I know a couple of people who work there too, man. But
So these
y'all
yo,
gotta do better
so
over
for
there,
everybody
man.
that's
Y'all
watching,
can't be kidnapping our
these are the
kids.
names that they're giving these $12,000 Wayfair cabinets, by the way, and they all look the fucking same. They look like some shit that was made by Snap-on. So I don't know what the warranty is on them or anything like that. Um, there's people
It
making.
ain't what's on the outside of the cabinet. It's what's on the inside of the cabinet.
So
That's the
yeah. I mean,
delivery.
if you haven't heard about it, basically they're trying to say that you order a cabinet and that shit comes with like a kid in it.
Fucking internet, man.
Wait a minute, what's going on here? All right, we're working. So I know for most people they're like, oh, that shit's outrageous. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're not shipping kids in cabinets, and I mean, to me that's a little crazy. But
But
I mean, but what? So from what I take from it, like after you look at the Epstein thing, and I have a whole fucking graph that's every single person like that's supposed to be tied to him, or even anybody. Like if Epstein was like, "Hey Jim," like Jim's on the list. Like
that
Epstein talked
Epstein
to this
shit,
nigga one time in the Starbucks.
that Epstein shit is crazy.
So
Oh my
so
god.
what I think that shit really could be like with those type of names, it doesn't have to necessarily be a specific person, but it could be like an entry. It could be like, yo, I bought the $12,000 cabinet. I got it in my house. It doesn't have to have a kid in it, but you can hold it and go, hey, uh, I bought the cabinet, motherfucker, so I'm gonna need you to deliver that kid sometime within the next 2 weeks.
It could be like a code before the code. Like you buy the cabinet, then that sales receipt has the directions for
Yeah, for real, yo. I think that
online.
people like don't because there's along with the cabinets, there's like a throw pillow that's $12,000, and that shit's got a girl's name too, and it's like fucking
I didn't,
a
I didn't
regular
see it.
pillow that looks like you could make that shit on Vistaprint.
I just seen a run of cabinets that was looking the same that was causing like 10 racks. And then it had the picture of the kids. I'm sure you showed it, man. I was just
Bro, I
like,
can understand if that shit was like had like artesian molding from Italy or some shit, but that shit it looks like a cabinet that you put fucking WD-40 in
the
kids.
internet got the internet got me twice this week, man. They got me with that Wayfish shit, and they got me with that Red Table Talk with my guy Will Smith. They dubbed over same girl, the R. Kelly joint, and they had. I gotta send it to you so you can post it, man. But like all them Red Table Talk memes, man.
So listen, if you
My
ever
guy,
want to, that is the most fucking. I don't know. Fucking Jada Pinkett has fucking problems. First of all, there's no question about it because wherever that word came from, that shit came from a publicist. That did not come from her fucking mouth. Ain't nobody
her
ever in
entanglement,
life said,
her
"All right, bitch,
entanglement.
I'm gonna admit it. I was entangled with these two bitches over here." Like nobody ever said that ever in their life. Nobody's ever. I've never heard a story where somebody said, "Yo, let me tell you, it was an entanglement, and we was there, and John was there, and it was shit happened."
But you know I don't believe that was rehearsed, and I think that's just Jada being in
No,
her
no,
mind with
fuck
this for
no.
a little
Her
while. I have some time
line
to think
was
about it
rehearsed. The
because
rest of it wasn't, but her
oh no
line
no,
was.
no yeah oh no it definitely was rehearsed by her. I don't think she ran it by nobody because Will looked at her like what. I didn't get that part of the script. I didn't get that edit. Hold on a second. What is you talking about right now? You talking about the relationship that you had with that man?
Yo,
Like okay,
the boss, whoever her fucking publicist was, literally said, "Yo, this is the word that you could say that does the least amount of verbal damage in somebody's mind." Because everybody hears it and goes, "Hold." Like if you said that shit to your girl, if you just came back and you were like, "What you talking about? It was an
oh no,
entanglement." She'd be like, "Wait a minute, what's
oh
an
no,
entanglement?" And then she'd wake up in the morning and shoot you in the fucking head.
oh no, oh no. It wouldn't have got to the morning. It would have been an automatic shot. It wouldn't have got there for. Wouldn't have got there for. That entanglement though, that's gonna be some fly shit. You're gonna see, man. People gonna be running that up
Oh,
now. Like,
nigga, yo,
nah,
that's the word now. There's no question about that. That's definitely
yeah,
the
I'll
word.
work with her, but we was just entangled in some work affairs. That wasn't nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? I still love you, girl. That was just entanglements at work. But I'm home with you right now in a relationship.
So
You know?
I mean, I don't see since you've been working so damn hard. I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear. What let's move on to Nick Cannon.
I heard about the Nick Cannon man. I heard him. He was talking that original man talk a little too loud, and them corporate checks started going
That's
away.
true. So now you talk that original man talk a little bit too loud because um to be honest, like I guess when you just post a bunch of articles that said he made anti-Semitic statements, you don't actually preface the exact statement in which he made, which is more along the lines of him saying stuff like, I guess white people and Jewish people had to be savages because they ran into a situation where there was basically a class of man that was more than them. Which, if you go back and read Mark Twain, I think it was like 1800s. Mark Twain referred to the Zulus when he first encountered them as perfect. He said their skin tone was absolutely flawless. There was nothing wrong with it, and that their muscle tone was so impeccable that it would be impossible to compete with them. So if you say something like that, and that's Mark Twain. He's a white guy, a very fucking famous writer. So I'm like, now all of a sudden Nick Cannon says it, 200 years later, and people are freaking the fuck out as if he said all Jews should be burnt, and he did not say that. He didn't say anything close to that.
Yeah, I can't speak on it all the way because I just saw the aftermath. I didn't get a chance to go back and see exactly what he said, but just knowing Nick Cannon, like whatever he said, in knowing Nick Cannon's history and knowing how he talks, like I can't really see him kind of going out there on some truly anti-Semitic, I hate the Jews kind of like talk.
Well, I mean, so where the Nick Cannon shit started. And I can certainly see it coming from this, but I actually did listen to it, so I know exactly what he said. He was on a fucking podcast with Professor Griff, who is like the fucking, at least that motherfucker says anything. So the problem is that now Nick Cannon says, Viacom says, you know what, we're gonna release we're gonna release you from your contract, whatever, blah 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 blah, and Nick Cannon says you can't fire a boss, and then P Diddy says, yeah, come to Revolt Network on his Twitter.
Come on over to Death Row.
No, the problem now. So here we go. That mind you, if
editing your shows.
Anybody that's watching that doesn't know, because this is the number 2.5 racist statement that you'll ever hear anytime you encounter a person that doesn't realize they're racist. Why isn't there a WET? You got a BET. Well, guess what, motherfucker?
I didn't know where you
BET is owned by motherfucking Viacom. It got sold. So black people don't fucking own BET. You want to know what black people do own? Black people own TV One, Bounce, Aspire, Revolt own. What else I got over here? Bop TV. I ain't never even heard of that shit. And the Dream Machine. So those are the black-owned networks.
This is Dream Machine? Is that some national shit?
I don't know. That sounds like the old arcade at the Arsenal Mall. The Dream Machine.
You missing a couple on your list.
Soul of the South.
Don't miss. Nah. My man who got the Weather Channel. His name just escaped me.
I don't know the name of his shit was. If only if TT was in here, he could tell me, because he posts that shit about that motherfucker all the time.
You don't have me on the internet right now.
Let's do it. Let's look on the motherfucking internet, man. Imperfect podcast type shit. We're trying to find information here
right now.
Oh yeah, I had to. Part of that goddamn what's it called? Pizzagate conspiracy. Some chick tried to just basically take 30 kids from Haiti and go, oh, they need my help. And then they stopped her at the border like, who needs your help? Let me see what this motherfucker's name is.
I'm mad at myself for forgetting it right now. I had to turn my phone on. People was calling me crazy.
Show me pictures and shit.
He owns
Byron
a ton
Allen.
of Byron Allen. Yes. Shout out to Byron Allen. Just cut all this out, man. Edit all this out. Just get right back to the Byron Allen.
Somebody said also WET would definitely be a porn channel. Without question, it would. It'd be porn and school shootings.
My headset just went out, so I don't know if my audio's messed up.
Nah, you're good right now.
All right, I turned off my fan in the back just in case.
So I guess what happened was Nick Cannon woke up in the morning and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna apologize and I'm gonna delete every video that I've ever done with Professor Griff and Tariq Nasheed. So I don't think he's on the path of taking on P. Diddy's offer.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Who if that was a real offer? But I mean, he got fired, so He got fired from Viacom though, but he got a ton of jobs though, don't he? He do Masked Singer on Fox, and he
Well,
do
Fox, yeah,
something else.
Fox came out and said, yeah, they're gonna stay with him no matter what. Because
Okay.
I think their apology was for the Fox thing, but I think we're getting to the point where like, what the fuck is the point of these phony apologies? If you know that basically the way the psychology works, if we're gonna go by a Freud type definition, you're saying what you fucking mean. You can say that you were ill informed, but you're allowed to read and you've been doing it for years. So now what? Now that means what? No Dr. Sabi documentary, no anything? Are you just gonna completely lay the fuck down? Because I think from the mindset of what people thought about Nick Cannon anyway, it was like, I'm not sure until he gets all the way in, and this is your chance to really get all the way the fuck in.
Nick Cannon has a label and a perception of being corny, man. But I got a little bit more faith in him than that, man. I've seen him kind of talk on some of the other platforms that he's created, and it's and even him stepping up to take that Dr. Semi documentary, man. Like I'm hopeful that he's still on that path, man. He's gonna push forward with that, man. And then on top of that too, man, like Nick Cannon for sure has the corny label, man. But like even looking at what he's doing with Wild 'N Out, where he's giving so many young black comedians, black and brown, and kind of everything in between comedians an opportunity to be on TV, to tour, to get their name out there, to build up their own brands like a DC Young Fly. You know what I'm saying?
He came out and advocated for him on his social media.
Yeah, and as they should, man, because Nick Cannon is really kind of like using his influence to really try to bring up people, man. So like from that standpoint, like he's putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? Like so we can joke on him and say like him putting that Mariah tattoo on his back, looking like some old ridiculousness. Like we can laugh at that, but when it come down to like you know what I'm saying, him actually kind of doing his thing and advocating, like you gotta look at the man's work. You know what I'm saying? You gotta look at his actions.
Oh, listen, all I'm looking at is you got some empty space behind you, and I'm just saying I could throw a Wayfair fucking Julissa cabinet right there.
We go. I'm gonna get the measurements to you later on tonight, man. I'm gonna get the measurements going. We gonna be all set, man. I'm
A
gonna start with that
Julissa
throw
cabinet
pillow.
on the rocks.
I'm gonna start with that throw pillow. For the couch. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna work my way up to the full on. You know what I'm saying? We gonna rescue them girls, man. One Wayfair purchase at a time, man.
So I guess for anybody that's watching that makes those WET comments, Viacom owns Nickelodeon and MTV and BET. So therefore they can take your fucking kid and show them a SpongeBob, and then SpongeBob can be a superstar for a fucking teen that's popping and twerking when they're 20. So they can raise your kid all the way up to MTV, and now they're a musician. So if ever you want to know why Britney Spears is Britney Spears, she was on motherfucking Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and then she was an artist right after. So that's everything that kind of comes into how you can be molded through your TV when you basically let somebody and not understand how it works. If you're still telling me that BET is owned by black people, you don't understand that. No, there's fucking black people positively protesting all year long. But since they don't
Yeah.
fucking own BET, not that you watch the shit anyway,
Yeah.
that they can't even control what's on that shit. So they can put whatever they want on it, and that's what it is. And they can fire the Nick Cannons. How do you fire somebody that's black, even though you own BET, right? So Nick Cannon can't be on BET right now because Viacom said no, we're done.
Yeah, man. BT's it's some sad shit, man, because of what it should be and what it could be, man. Like I was talking to one of my homies who's kind of in that TV admin executive space about this the other day, and it's some sad shit because you see like digital streaming platforms right now are kind of really positioning themselves to be the new TV, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, like these kind like that is going to be we're going to turn on TV. It's not going to be like, oh, let's go to channel 5. It's going to be like, oh, let's go to Disney Plus. Oh, let's go to the Amazon Prime app. Like that's going to be TV. That's conspiracy theory.
To be honest, that is TV. So people don't understand that. As much as you love Dave Chappelle, without Netflix, Dave Chappelle's done because TV destroyed him. And the old money said, Dave Chappelle, you're done, until Netflix literally smashed the mold into pieces and said, no, we're bringing him back. So we're just lucky that we have outlets like that, and there should be no shortage of them, because I think people get overwhelmed as thinking, well, Netflix did this and this and they're so big, but you need to understand that starting at any level could certainly become that, because I mean, you see motherfuckers like, what's this, Jesus and Miro. I don't even think they're funny. Somebody sent me the shit like, yo, and I was like, all right, yeah, that episode was funny. But I'm like, I can't hate on their deal. They make fucking money. They get crazy amounts of people that's there. You know what I'm saying? And that's the point where it's like they started from nothing. I'm sure they didn't think the shit was going to be anything, and then all of a sudden there it is. But guess what? If you don't fucking try, it's not going to be anything, and I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, shout out to Jesus and Mero, man. That's a great story, and just to kind of bring it full circle too. So I'm talking to the homie who knows a lot more about TV than me, and I'm like, damn, man. I'm looking at these streaming platforms, and I'm like, where's the black streaming platform? Where's the place that I can go and I can watch old Martin episodes and the Wayans brothers and Homeboys in Outer Space or some random bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Plus some old BET basement freestyles. Like, where can I go to get all these black movies that we grew up on? Like, how come there's not one place that I can even like the bad stuff, even the I got the hookup, the Master P joint.
Yo, but
you know
that is a crazy statement. Like, I never even thought of that. And once again, where we tie all these people together, why didn't? Because I'm sure I think the Wayans own all their shit. And that's not in living color, because that was obviously why the in living color thing came up. But I think after that, they Keenan made sure that they own all their stuff. And I remember there was this thing called, and I can't even find it now. It was called Honest TV with Damon Wayans Jr. And it was a skit called It was like you put this ear thing in your ear and people hear exactly what you're saying for real, even though you're lying to them. Hooked on Honest. It's one of the funniest skits I've ever seen in my life. And they had a website for it, and they pulled it all down, and I couldn't find it. So I think they're trying to unveil it later. But with a black network, you would think that they would buy up all that shit. And all I can hope is that everybody kind of puts their movies through Tyler Perry's studio going forward. And then some of these networks, which, no, I don't fucking count on Oprah at all, because she doesn't do anything fucking black other than make The Color Purple in a horrible Henrietta Lacks movie. And then
sound like you spent a good $20 in the movie theaters.
Nah, I watched it on HBO because I know a lot about Henrietta Lacks, and I don't like the way they kind of portrayed that to the point where it's like one of these black networks buy all that shit, and then you'd get it. Like, if you bought all that shit right now, you get it. I'm sure you could be like, hey, I'm gonna buy Homeboys in Outer Space and then throw it on a couple years. You know what I'm saying?
So you know what the homie told me? He told me, like, and because I was telling him the same thing. I was just like, I'll pay $9.99 a month to be able to go back and kind of just have access to that kind of stuff, right? Like, that's something that's not there. And he was telling me that, like, traditionally, and maybe the times are changing, but like traditionally in media, like the black media wasn't respected like that. Those archives weren't really thought as having value, especially evergreen value that can continue to kind of be syndicated and to keep having and to keep and have like a longer shelf life, like a Seinfeld or whatever the case may be. And it's just not there. BET can't go back and show you old episode of the Basement like that because they didn't keep up their own archives, so they don't have it kind of in those. They can do that, and they just don't want to invest.
Well, I mean, everything wasn't BET. I just think that everything on UPN
and some of that UPN stuff is in syndication. I think the Wayans brothers in syndication right now on VH1, and you can catch old episodes of Martin, stuff like that. But it even trickles down to being like, if I want to buy the box set for Living Single, it's really tough to do it. And like you might be able to get the first season, but you can't get the fifth season. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just real choppy with those kind of like those classic black shows. You know what I'm saying? But it's because it comes down to systematic issues, just like with everything else in this country, right? Of black media not kind of really being respected, and not also kind of and not being seen on equal playing ground with some of these other kind of with these other outlets, with these other vehicles, and then it not being kind of it not being protected.
I mean, from what you're saying, I look at it more even as numbers. I started to look at everything now. When you tell somebody, hey, black people are 13% of the United States. Now, anytime I walk into a place and somebody's like, oh, there's no black people working here, I'm like, I don't know, is there 13% of black people working here? Because at 13% of the United States, you should never expect to walk into a place and see all black people, even though it does happen sometimes. So now...
Depends on where you are. If I'm in D.C. on Atlanta, I want to see a bunch of black
DC,
people.
I said it 2 episodes ago. It's the only place I've ever seen 4 black police officers in one place, ever. But with that
Right.
being said, now when you transfer that over, because we have to look at numbers all the time. We have to look at marketing numbers and possibilities and what will come of it.
Yeah.
It has to be a black person that goes, you know what? I'm gonna buy a living single from, I think Fox was what living single was, and then I'm gonna push it to a black platform that's only black people, and make
And
the amount of money
it
that
don't
possibly
necessarily
can
have
make.
and it don't necessarily have to be, oh, this is a black show, put it towards black people, because we already know that black culture is now youth culture. So in hip hop culture,
World
it's
culture.
all kind of melded. It's all melded into one. So like, this isn't like small business we're talking here. Like white people watch those shows just like Spanish people watch those shows, just like black people watch those shows. And so there's a business there, and it can be marketed, but it's just it's just a systematic problem with how black media is being kind of like categorized and how it's being managed. And I think a lot of those things are still in place today with old media, but we're seeing that break now kind of with these digital platforms, with a Netflix kind of giving deals to kind of all types of different creators, including minority creators, including women, you know what I'm saying, to kind of really give them access to those kind
But
of things.
once
So
again, with that, I think it's somebody that's got to buy everything. Somebody's got to buy. They're gonna go. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna buy all these black. I'm gonna buy all this black shit, and then also I'm gonna combine it with like mix in some Dharma and Greg in this motherfucker, and some Wings and
yeah,
some random ass old ass, white people shows, to where it
yeah,
works. But yeah, like I guess when you call it that, you're not gonna draw that in because it automatically is like. If you're like,
yeah,
yo, this is the black streaming service, and people are gonna be like, oh, I don't need the black streaming service. Not like when
yeah,
Disney Plus came out, and people immediately thought, I'm gonna watch motherfucking Hamilton, and then after that,
yeah,
I'm gonna watch Avengers, and then they're gonna bring back Jessica Jones. It wasn't there. There never was anything that was like, you know what, they're gonna bring some black shit, and we're gonna watch this shit. That never
yeah,
happened. So I mean, on that aspect, on the other side, you need to have a black dude buy a fucking syndicated. You need to have a black dude buy Friends.
yeah.
You could be like, yo, I own fucking Friends now. And then I'm
Well,
taking
yeah.
Friends, and also I'm going to fucking bombard you with some motherfucking Homeboys in Outer Space and some Moesha.
You gotta. I don't know if I'm butchering the story, but I hear you talk about that, and I think about Michael Jackson and as I understand the story, as the rumor goes, Paul McCartney was schooling them on just masters, right, and the value of owning your masters and the value of really kind of like acquiring masters and kind of how that can kind of really generate wealth down the line. So Mike heard that, he was just like, you know what, you're right, and then he went and bought Paul.
I'm going to buy your songs.
And that was the end of that. You know
And
what
it's
I'm
as
saying?
simple as that. He's mad at me because I did good business. And Michael Jackson's actually a perfect segue because I'll go Michael Jackson for a little bit, and then we can finish this shit up. One thing that is the craziest thing to me, and I said this the other day, is that with all this rape and molestation shit coming out, I have not heard Michael Jackson's name one fucking time. And you would think that in all those years they'd be able to tie him into something, which is what I never believed anyway. I didn't believe that he was involved in that shit in the first place. And when that documentary came out, I had to explain to somebody. As soon as Michael Jackson, the state challenged it, Oprah took all that shit down. She took it off YouTube. She took it off everywhere, which is like, that's a little funny too.
I seen that documentary, man, and that thing was nasty. Like, it was nasty, and you can't. Oprah, man, she's so powerful. She's done so many great things, but like stuff like this is like it's tough to deal with, and she really has to kind of come to the carpet and really kind of explain the rationale behind it. She was trying to do the same thing with Russell Simmons as well, and then you know what I'm saying, like she got a little bit of backlash and she backed away with the documentary stuff. But like, if you're gonna put out a documentary like that and you're not gonna do all the vetting in the world to make sure that these people are saying the right things, and these people, you know what I'm saying, like you can't throw smut on somebody's name like that, especially when they pass. If it's not sound, man. Because, and then on top of that too, like for people who like, if Oprah's putting her name on something like that, then there's gonna be a population of people who give it a certain validation because they have a trust in Oprah. You know what I'm saying? And for her to lend her influence that way, man, that was disgusting.
Unquestionably, I think Oprah is a person that literally at this point has transcended race to where, like, you know, white people watch it every day and they're like, oh, they don't even realize that she's black anymore because, and now you kind of extend that with, you know, her photos laughing with Harvey Weinstein and shit like that to where you're like, okay, so what are we doing here? Because I remember Eddie Griffin, the stand-up comedian, saying if you're black and you're in the industry, you don't make it out clean. And now when you look at it, the biggest role models of the last, you know, 40 fucking years have either been killed or destroyed in the media. So you can talk everything from Tupac to Michael Jackson to Bill Cosby to fucking I can't even think of other people where it's like those are the biggest. Bill Cosby is essentially the biggest black show ever, you know, and here we are working on Will Smith now, and then you got R. Kelly, who might be the biggest musician ever. He wrote "You Are Not Alone." In case you didn't know, it was the highest selling single ever made by Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and those are so complicated. With the Michael Jackson thing, right? Like that documentary was wild, but there's some blame on Michael Jackson too because he was too familiar with too many young kids, right? Like that, like how far that went and what and kind of what extent that was. Like I don't think we'll know, but the shame in that he's too familiar with too many kids. The R. Kelly stuff. That's a whole.
Well, the way so to give you a perspective of how I explained it, I said here's the difference between Michael Jackson and R. Kelly. When they accuse Michael Jackson of fucking with kids, you ain't never seen him with a kid again. They accuse R. Kelly, and he still had a bitch under his bed.
And you know what's sad about that too though, man, it is because and I heard somebody say this and I hate the fact that it's true, but it's kind of real. Like if R. Kelly was going on that kind of run with white girls, it wouldn't have got that far, and he would have been in jail for a long period of time. But because it was black girls, man, there was a lot of people kind of turning a blind eye to it.
And, it's the way the black community is with mental health. It's like, oh, that's crazy Jerry over there.
And it's the black community, but then it's also kind of like law enforcement, and like he was blatant with this. Growing up, we all heard the rumors of him marrying Aaliyah, this and that, and all the joke, like the sex tape when that came out, like you know what I'm saying, like everybody, like these things have been going on. Him peeing on girls. Dave Chappelle made the skit. Like Dave Chappelle made the skit after we had already been laughing at that for way too long because we had all seen that sex tape, the highest whatever sex tape that was bootleg. You know what I'm saying? Like like you could go anywhere. Do you remember the time? Like you could literally. I remember being in New York and like on every corner it was that tape. It was just like, yo, this is wild. Like what is going on right now? But like he's been doing foul from the beginning. Like when that documentary came out, the first part, and they talking about how when he first got on, how he was hanging out at the McDonald's across the way from the joint, giving out Happy Meals. Just like, yo, what kind of
stuff? Yo, listen, I knew in the question when they asked him, they was like, do you like young girls? And he was like, what you mean by young? I was like, okay, R. Kelly, like, but this fucking video's over. What are you doing?
That is media trained R. Kelly. That is not him speaking from the heart. That is after all the prep. Him you with the can you define teenage? What are you talking about, man?
So I guess
we are so far away from education right now.
I don't give a this. Listen, man, this is an Imperfect podcast. I don't give a fuck, man. We started off on education. Everybody was about that life. If fucking Sarah was here, we could have talked some more education, but it's okay. It's all right. This is still fucking, you know, an hour and 45 minutes. And I guess I'll finish up like this and kind of go on the same level that I went with kind of when I was in Texas and people talk that shit. Like I said, we're talking upwards of, you know, $6,000, $7,000 from the all evil Trump supporters when it comes to my nonprofit, and you know all the motherfucking Afrocentric wear your dreadlocks motherfuckers ain't donated, but you know I don't know, we're looking at maybe 500. Yeah. So at this point it's like put your money where your fucking mouth is, because I do every day for everybody, and at the end of the day the positivity is going to that point. And it's funny because somebody sent me a parody of Lord Jamar yesterday, and I fucking hate that dude. I fucking hate that dude because anytime you're spreading this type of hate, first of all, I think Eminem is the best rapper ever. That's we can argue it all you want. It is what it is.
He's top five for me, so it's not like a
Yeah.
real argument.
So
But
there's that
yeah.
comment, and then you have this dude that says this type of shit. Now, mind you, okay, Lord Jamar doesn't believe in Eminem, or you don't believe in fucking Black Lives Matter. If all these people, because I didn't even get to touch on that, which is that was the kind of the start of people saying, "Oh, George Soros funds Black Lives Matter," and I'm like, okay. George Soros can show up tomorrow and tell me he's giving me $1 million. I'm taking that shit to Costa Rica and I'm changing the fucking world.
Yeah, people get too hung up on and it's a nasty kind of set of circumstances where we live, man. I think you gotta look at things as somebody from the outside looking in. You gotta look at kind of how that money is being put to use as the first and foremost thing, right? If I'm giving money to Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter is just kind of lining their pockets with it and they're not really supporting the movement, they're not doing all that, then everybody's wrong all the way across the tree, man. But if real work is getting done, then don't be mad at the people who are on those front lines, who are at that vanguard really doing real work, man. Like, and if the money is coming from somebody who, you know what I'm saying, doesn't necessarily have the kind of same kind of view sets, the same politics, but they're trying to understand, or they're giving money because they understand that this is a good cause. Like you know what I'm saying? Like you gotta look at things case by case, and you can't just look at things from black and white and just be like, oh, you voted for Trump, so you must be bad, and you can't ever change your mindset or anything like that. Like you got to take things by case, man. It's too complicated and it's too real out here to be so close minded like
Unquestionably.
that.
And to go further, Lord Jamar has fucking donated $0 to anybody, anywhere. So, hey, he disagrees with Black Lives Matter and he disagrees with Eminem, but he disagrees with anything that y'all are trying to fucking do either. So that means I've donated about, I don't know, $10,000 more than Lord Jamar in his fucking history of donating to anything. So if you a
Yeah.
super hood nigga, like y'all say, y'all can sit there with George, fucking Lord Jamar and donate nothing. But guess what? I'm trying to actually unite people and change the fucking world. Every day that I'm out here, and I know Alex is because he's along the lines with us and our boys at Limitless, at Epic Care, at fucking One Vision. We're all trying to change the world. And we're all trying to create a circle to change the world. So when anybody asks, "Hey, what does the black community need to do?" It's what we're doing. We just need the actual support of more people to make sure that we can make the changes that we need to make. I guess I'll finish on that. But if you got
Yeah.
anything to say, I know you said you had some questions.
Well, no, I mean we've been going for like 2 hours, man. You're gonna have to bring me back, man. You're gonna have to pay me a little stipend for all this game I'm giving out, man. Nah, man, I appreciate being on the podcast, man. I think kind of I mean, we go back, we went to school together, man, and we kind of shared an experience kind of at Brookline that kind of really kind of molded a lot of kind of who we are today, right? Through the adversity and through kind of the good communities and kind of all that stuff that was built, man. But I see what you do, man, with the Tropic Bowl. I see that what you do with other people who just helping them selflessly in relationship towards kind of them starting businesses, with them having questions about kind of life and just kind of you being there and the source for that, man. And kind of I respect that, and I see kind of qualities and try to how I try to live and how I try to kind of give out information kind of through kind of like how you do it too, man. So I respect it and I use it and it's inspirational for me as I move forward too, man, because I know in addition to your work, man, I know that like I know for a fact, people who have started up companies and they've come to you and asked you for advice and you selflessly like giving them game, putting them on to people on how to do things and kind of just giving them resources in order to kind of do better and grow their stuff, man. It's not stuff that's always talked about. And that's the type of things when I say communication and kind of when you say kind of really kind of like talking about giving back, it's not just about money, but it's about helping one another. It's about seeing people who are truly kind of putting their all into a business or truly about a movement or truly affecting change. And it's about really kind of getting, it's really about doing what you kind of support those people. You don't have, if you don't have the time and capacity to kind of be able to do that, not everybody does. Like, not everybody can do the shit that we like. If you
Shit.
You know what I'm saying? But even if you can't, that's fine. Like support. You know what I'm saying? Support. Learn about kind of other people who are doing these things and figure out how you can contribute and how you can keep these things going. And then you'll see those benefits too, right? It's not everything is about instantaneous gratification or instant return, man. But kind of if we all are helping each other, if we're all building this ecosystem and we're all making it strong, then it's gonna be there to kind of really kind of solve some of these problems that are out there, man.
Oh
So
yeah, damn, you sound like you wrote that down.
that's phenomenal, man. Plus,
So I mean, just to extend on that, I think people trying to take into account that sharing and helping is more than it needs to be. I don't need you to give me $10,000, but however, I do need you to share my shit. I do
yeah,
need you to like my shit and get that algorithm going. I say this all the time. I don't give a fuck what my friends share. It could be the worst rap song ever. I'm liking that shit, and
yeah,
hopefully you fucking blow up and turn everything into what you need to turn that shit into. And with that being said, also there might be a piece that I have that you don't have, and vice versa. You might have a piece that I don't fucking have, and I need that piece so that we make it. Because when we make it, we all fucking make it. And I'm coming back, and I'm gonna make sure that we take care of everybody. Alex, thank you, man. You definitely came correct. You definitely answered everything you need to answer. We can't compare anything to Mims because I can't even compare myself to Mims. He's on a whole other level of kind of where he's at.
Mims on. Let me get a minute on Mims real quick, man, before we go, man. If anybody who's listening to this haven't listened to Ray's episode with Dr. Adrian Mims, man, go and do that now. I went to Brookline High School, so did Ray, and I didn't have Mims as a math teacher. I don't think you had him either. But he was a presence in that school for us, man. That was definitely in a foreign land, in a foreign environment. He was definitely somebody that we could look at and say, like, okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there are people here who I know I could talk to if something crazy is going on, who I know I can kind of reach out to. And even if I don't talk to him, just being a symbol there. And then on top of that, man, he was out here dunking on the kids, man. He wasn't dunking on me though, but he was dunking on the kids,
dunked on
man.
me.
I done seen him. I done see him dunk on a couple folks, and I was looking at it like that couldn't be me. That couldn't be me. I'm gonna get off the court right now. I'm gonna slide to the side real quick. You got it, man. You got the whole lane right there. Because if it ain't gonna be that, it's gonna be me and you fighting in the. It's gonna be a full on technical.
For real. But hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I said, share this shit, like this shit. Don't hate it because I'm not hating on you. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Which way is it? This way? Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Imperfect Audio, Facebook, Imperfect Audio. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our guest, Alex, and We Steam Ahead. Have a great night.
Steam Ahead. Check out our Instagram, We Steam Ahead. All that, man. Our website, westeamahead.org. Organization Steam Ahead. Check it out.
Have a great night.